Hey everyone, I just wanted to show a real quick tip on how to get your students to engage a little bit more. This is a technique that I've tried over the past couple of years and it just seems to be working really, really well, especially moving to an online format like many of us have. So if we look at our screen here, what I've built here is just a weekly survey that I hand out to my students in Google Forms. So, and I'll show you how I build these in just a second, but just to give you an example of one, I just give a description of what it is. It's their weekly survey. Make sure that they're honest with their feedback. Personal evaluation, I always make sure that that's checkmarked as optional because I want them to feel safe enough to go ahead and to leave feedback in an anonymous function. So I don't want them feeling scared that I'm going to get mad at them for giving true and honest feedback. So then I just go through and I've built like, what is your level of understanding? This is for our first week with there's math fundamentals and then some elements in my online course that I have. So I use a checklist. Did they find it useful? Did they find the videos helpful? Did they find the worksheets helpful? Quizlet I use. Did they find these PDFs that I hand out helpful? So just basically like a whatchamacallit, multiple choice. How are they feeling about learning online? And then what did they dislike or like about the format? And I ask them this each week, and it's amazing the actual feedback you get from your students as they get more comfortable with you. I find that they're no longer just not putting it in anonymous, but they're actually sharing names, which is great. But at the same time, some will always choose to be anonymous. But the feedback I get has helped me take the course and make it better because our students are part of the process here and they can let me know where they're struggling with and what are some of the things that they need help with. And so this is a safe place to do that. In face-to-face, you could ask them, but even in a face-to-face class, they're not always going to feel safe enough, no matter how engaging and socially present you are, they're not going to always feel safe enough to answer those questions. So by asking them in an anonymous survey, you can get some really good answers. And I'm going to be honest, some of the things that come through here will say things like, I don't like this format, or you could be doing this, this, and this. And I have taken some of those things and put them into the course. And it makes the students feel heard. And I think that is so important, is to let our students know that they are part of this whole online process. And so by doing that and by creating a survey, it is just so simple, such a simple little tool, but it makes our students feel like they're being listened to. And then not only that, when we actually start to incorporate or call out and say, hey, there was a great suggestion regarding this during the survey, I just wanted to say thank you to whoever put that in there. Then not only do they feel like they're being listened to, but they actually feel like they're being heard. So in order to create one of these, what I would do is I'm just going to go back to my forms here and I'm going to go down. It's a Google Suite, so you're going to have a Google account. And I go to the plus down here. And then I've got my untitled form. So this would be the description where I put a weekly survey. You can put in whatever you want and as much information as you want. Then I have my first question. I always put that as a name. So I give them the option. Now, if for whatever reason you have, and you can use Google Forms to do quizzes and everything. So if you want, you can have them have that as a required field. For name, I honestly don't. Then you're going to click on that to next question. And that's when you can start putting in here. So how did you feel about the unit? And then you could put in your options. Great, Greta, great, meh, having trouble spelling today, and it was hard. So you can put that in there. You can add images if you want. The more you get into this, the more you're going to see the stuff that you can do. So that would be my multiple choice. Let's add another question to this. You can make these different. You can have check boxes, drop downs, paragraphs. So let's say I want this. What are some things you would change? And let's make that. Now, sometimes Google they'll go through and it figures out what you need. So long answer text, so I would put that in there. So say you go through, you add all your questions, then you want to give this to your students. There's a different ways you can do it. You can go to send. And you can send it via email to your students. So if you've got an email list with them, you can just send it out that way. You can give them the link. You can shorten the URL because the links are sometimes long. And I've done this in my Slack group sometimes. I've sent out the survey via Slack. Or you can take this and embed it into your learning management system or into anything you want. So it gives you this iframe code and you can go ahead and send that off to your students. I have seen, and I'm not making these stats up, that over the past 6 months as I've been teaching online and I release these once a week, I start out at about a 60% participation rate, and closer to the end of the course, it's upwards from 90 to 100% every single survey, because I think the students are seeing that I'm not just putting these surveys out as busy work, I'm actually listening to them. So if you are going to do this method, make sure that you actually are listening to your students, not calling them out, but acknowledging some of the great ideas that come through, or acknowledging when they say that they've had a struggle with something or they didn't like this, and say, I never saw it from that point. I want to thank somebody for bringing that up to me and bringing that up in the survey, and I'm going to take care of that. So it just becomes a nice, safe place for them to share their problems, their struggles, as well as their successes. That's how I use Google Forms. Hopefully you get some sort of value out of that. And please do me a favor, leave a comment down below if you have any issues at all, and we'll see you in the next one.